Tell us about your first voting experience.
My earliest voting memory isn't one where I actually voted, but I remember my mom would always bring me with to the polls every time she would vote as a kid, because she always wanted to make sure that her kids knew that voting was important and going to the polls is something that you should feel empowered to do.
My first voting experience, God, I can hardly remember, but I know it was as soon as I was able to vote. And that would have been, let's see, I was born in 43, 53, that would have been in the late 1950s. And I really don't, I can remember my first political experience, but I don't remember my first time I voted. But you know, I've always believed vote early and vote often. You know, vote as many times as you want. Yeah. So I never don't vote, and the smaller the election, the more I'm motivated. If it's a small election, like school board or councilor or something, and there's only going to be 100 people voting, my 1 in 100 counts a lot. If it's presidential, it's I'm one of 3 million. It don't count so much. So the smaller the vote, the smaller the election, the more motivated I am, and I'm motivated for all of them.
So my first time voting was in 2012. That was the 2012 presidential election. So that was Obama and Mitt Romney, I believe. And so I was actually a fresh college student at the time, and I did not know what to do. So I had to figure out how to vote while away from home, out of my state, whether I vote in Wisconsin or Minnesota at the time. So I remember it being kind of confusing, but I did do it. That was kind of my general first time voting experience.
How does voting make you feel?
I don't know, that's a good question. I think that it makes me feel engaged because in my opinion, one of the most important things about voting is making an informed vote and making sure that you're aware of who's on the ballot and what their positions are and know what you're voting for, not just who you're voting for. So going and making your beliefs heard at the polls by casting your ballot for somebody who believes similar things. So I would say it makes you feel engaged.
Righteous. I feel righteous, and I feel important, and I feel, let's see, one of my mantras is Spike Lee's movie title, Do the Right Thing, with coronavirus. I don't really want to wear the mask. I don't really want to distance. It's like I don't want to stay at home rather than be out partying with my friends. And with voting, it's like do the right thing. And in doing the right thing, to me, I learned in school something called the universal imperative. And I try to teach that to my friends. Whatever you do, try to do it in such a way that if everyone did that, the world would be a better place. That's called the universal imperative. And of course, I'm not perfect, so I fail. But you fail, and then you try to be better. Each time you try to be better, and you're reaching to not for perfection, but like the U.S. Constitution says, we're trying to build a more perfect union. So you get better and better and better never reach perfection, but you're always getting better.
It kind of depends. Presidential election, like those big elections, and just a small, very, very small fish in the ocean. When it comes to those local elections, when I recognize the names, I know the people, or they've met them. That feels like pretty nice to have a much bigger impact when it comes locally. So that's kind of where it kind of makes me feel. It depends on the election, but it feels empowering depending on the size of the election.
Why is voting important to you?
Voting is very important to me. I think partially because, there's so many people who have died and are still fighting for the right to vote. And I think that some people take it for granted. And so I want to make sure that I'm honoring the people who have fought for my right to be able to vote and go and exercise that right. And also, if they don't like the candidate, well, I'm just not going to vote. Well, not voting isn't going to change anything. Voting is the way to change things, and it's as much about who shows up to vote and who doesn't show up or who isn't allowed to show up to vote. So I think it's really important because that really is the only way that change will ever happen, and it really starts at a local level. So your local elections are very important, not just the national ones.
Doing the right thing and being part of something bigger than myself, and being part of the world you want to see.
It is one of those ways to get your voice out there, and it's like the simplest way to get your voice out there. Some people get to write. They write newspapers, or they write op-eds, or they make videos, or they talk to their friends on the internet. But a vote is, you just need to register and show up and cast it, and that has massive impact. Without all the making content, convincing people. It's the moment where everything is your choice at that moment, and whether that your choice is fulfilled or not depends on so many factors. But it is that ability that is important there and important to do. So I think it's important because it is one of the simplest ways to participate in a civic society.